I find myself vulnerable and shaken by the end of Bone Tomahawk, the second Kurt Russell western I've seen this year. Some people may be tricked into assuming Bone Tomahawk to be an old school traditional western, and you're not wrong, but it's the horror elements behind it that makes it stand out as a truly unsettling and often uncompromising depiction of cannibalistic Native American troglodytes. Primitive, cave-dwelling humans who only want to feast on the feared population of the ironically named Bright Hope. Kurt Russell plays the sheriff of this small town and gathers a posse of men fueled by their own egos and masculine sensibilities to set out and stop the tribe's barbaric attacks. It's the posse's constant disagreement and scrutiny of each other that drives the tension between them. While Kurt Russell leads in a very natural and controlled performance, it's the emotionally nimble characterization of Patrick Wilson's Arthur O'Dwyer, the bold and narcissistic demeanour of Matthew Fox's John Bruder, and Richard Jenkins' stern and humble delivery as Chicory that keeps the journey engaging. It's when the film hits you with brutality and savage violence does it make you tremble and gasp at the suddenness and pronounced actions of the cannibals. After setting up the urgency and conflict of the narrative, much of the second act focuses primarily on the character's journey, which allows us to understand and observe the defensive and hostile nature of men. I find the film's exploration of themes of masculine sensibility and bravado to be quite interesting.
Sheriff Hunt has a wife, so does Mr. O'Dwyer. And you're a widower.
Yeah. What has that got to do with anything?
Smart men don't get married.
The characters are often prickly and uptight when their egos are called into question, and it's only when they're overpowered by other obstacles and enemies do they begin to work as a team. There's a great stubbornness to the characters that I oddly find rather interesting, especially when they get into heated combat with the tribal men. The film works as an interesting exploration of masculinity in a lawless, barbaric and cutthroat world. What we have is men killing men whilst also defending their own male pride in the process. At least that's one interpretation you could give to it, and I appreciate that the film points out the ridiculous nature of bruising each other's egos. As a western, Bone Tomahawk feels very much like either the Dollars trilogy or the Wild Bunch. It's certainly not for the faint of heart, especially considering it features one of the most grisly deaths I have ever seen on screen. That said, as a western drama and as a horror film, the hybrid works genuinely very well. It's a raw and simple tale that's carried by charismatic performances, occasional humour, and even pushes your sensibilities when it comes to violence. There's also some very interesting plot points that make the history of the cannibals even more interesting, and in fact there's almost a supernatural element to their existence. This film came out in the US last October, but it's now just reaching UK cinemas, but I do recommend it to those sadistic enough to stomach the gore and violence. So yeah, that was Bone Tomahawk. That was an interesting one. If you saw the film, make sure to leave your own thoughts in the comments below. It's very rare when a film actually leaves you slightly emotionally scarred coming out of it, and I didn't really expect it from this film. Until next time, if you're on Facebook or Twitter, go there, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you very, very shortly.